Harris Boyle was an Ulster Defence Regiment soldier and a high-ranking member of the Ulster Volunteer Force, a Northern Irish loyalist paramilitary organisation. Boyle was implicated in the 1974 Dublin and Monaghan bombings, which left a total of 33 people dead. Boyle took part in the attack at Buskhill, County Down, when an armed UVF gang wearing British Army uniforms ambushed the Miami Showband at a bogus military checkpoint. The popular Irish cabaret band was driving home to Dublin after a performance in Banbridge. He was one of the 2 gunmen killed when the bomb they had loaded onto the band's minibus exploded prematurely. He is sometimes referred to as Horace Boyle. Ulster Volunteer Force and UDR link. Boyle was born in Portadown, County Armagh, and grew up in the working-class Killycomain estate. He was raised as a Protestant and attended Etonderry Primary School. On an unknown date, Boyle joined both the Portadown Company of the UDR and the Portadown unit of the UVF Mid-Ulster Brigade. He held the rank of Major in the latter organisation, which at the time was commanded by Billy Hanna. Despite a vetting process, joint membership of the UDR and loyalist paramilitary organisations was common. Paramilitaries joined to obtain weapons, training and intelligence. Vetting procedures were carried out jointly by the Military Intelligence Corps and the Royal Ulster Constabulary's Special Branch, and if no intelligence was found to suggest unsuitability, individuals were passed for recruitment and would remain as soldiers until the commanding officer was provided with intelligence enabling him to remove soldiers with paramilitary links or sympathies. The Hidden Hand, the forgotten massacre documentary about the Dublin and Monaghan bombings, which was broadcast by Yorkshire Television in 1993, maintained that Boyle was second in command to Hanna. The brigade formed part of what later became known as the Glenann Gang. This was a violent loyalist group which operated out of a farm owned by RUC reservist James Mitchell, and comprised rogue elements of Northern Ireland's security forces as well as the UVF and, to a lesser extent, the Ulster Defence Association. This loose alliance carried out sectarian attacks and killings of Catholics, are often, although not always, those seen as upwardly mobile. During the 1970s, Boyle was charged with the possession of weapons and ammunition in suspicious circumstances on the 9th of September 1972 when he was 19 years old. He was implicated in the Dublin and Monaghan bombings of the 17th of May 1974. RUC Special Patrol Group Officer John Weir named Billy Hanna, Robbo Jackson and Davy Payne as having planned and led one of the UVF teams that drove 3 bomb cars into Dublin city centre during evening rush hour, killing 26 people. His allegations were published in 2003 in the Barron Report, which was the findings of the official investigation into the bombings by Irish Supreme Court Justice Barron. According to submissions received by Mr. Justice Barron, the Monaghan bomb was assembled at Boyle's home in Festival Road in the Killycomain estate. Hidden Hand reported that Boyle was run as an agent by Captain Robert Narak, the military intelligence liaison officer attached to 14th Intelligence Company. The program named Boyle as one of the prime suspects in the Dublin car bombings. Former British soldier and psychological warfare operative Colin Wallace confirmed that Boyle had close social links to Captain Narak. John Weir alleged that Boyle was part of the Glenann Gang who shot a PRA volunteer dead near Castle Blaney, County Monaghan on the 10th of January 1975. Miami Showband attack. Boyle was one of the Mid-Ulster Brigade UVF gang that carried out the attack against the popular Irish cabaret band, the Miami Showband, on the 31st of July 1975. Author Martin Dillon suggested in his book God and the Gun, The Church and Irish Terrorism, that Boyle was one of the leaders of the unit. At about 2:30 a.m., as the band was returning home to Dublin from a performance at the Castle Ballroom in Banbridge, the minibus was stopped on the A1 road at Buskhill, 7 miles north of Newry, at a bogus military checkpoint by UVF gunmen dressed in British Army uniforms. At least 4 of the other men, like Boyle, were serving members of the UDR. The band members were lined up with the hands on their heads facing a ditch and asked to give the names and addresses. Saxophonist Des McAleer, who survived the attack, later testified that Boyle had become angry at some of the other gunmen who had joked with the band members about the success of the performance that night. At this point, Boyle and Wesley Somerville went to the rear of the minibus and placed a 10-pound time bomb on board. This was meant to explode as the band drove through either Newry, or after they reached the Republic of Ireland, killing all 5 band members on board. According to The Dirty War by Martin Dillon, the plan behind the UVF bombing was to portray the band members as Republicans smuggling explosives for the Provisional IRA. Immediately after Boyle and Somerville closed the rear door, clumsy soldering on the clock which was used as a timer came apart and the bomb detonated prematurely. The bus was blown in half. The 2 loyalists, both in the vicinity of the explosion, took the full force of the blast and were killed instantly, with the bodies hurled in opposite directions. Boyle's body landed in the road, 50 yards away from the front half of the destroyed vehicle. It was ripped in two and badly burned. Both men were decapitated and dismembered. One limbless torso was completely charred. Survivor Stephen Travers later saw a photograph of one of the dead men and described it. He didn't have any head, just a black torso, no head, legs or arms. A severed arm with the tattoo, UVF Portadown, was later found 100 yards from the scene. According to Michael Brown of the Irish Mail on Sunday, the arm belonged to Wesley Somerville. Boyle was 22 years old at the time of his death. He was unmarried and worked as a telephone wireman. The remaining UVF gunmen opened fire on the Miami Showband members who had been blown down into the field below the level of the road. 3 of the band members were killed: trumpeter Brian McCoy, guitarist Tony Gurriati, and lead singer Fran O'Toole. Saxophone player Des McAleer and bassist Stephen Travers were both wounded, the latter having been shot with dum-dum bullets. Several days before the Showband attack, Mid-Ulster UVF leader Billy Hanna was shot dead, allegedly by Robin Jackson, who assumed command of the brigade. According to authors and journalists Martin Dillon, Paul Larkin and Joe Tiernan, Boyle had accompanied Jackson when the latter shot Hanna outside his home in Lurgan. Weir maintained that Jackson was an RUC Special Branch agent. An international panel of inquiry, commissioned by the Pat Finnegan Centre to investigate allegations of collusion between loyalist paramilitaries and the security forces, concluded there was credible evidence that Jackson was the principal perpetrator of the Miami Showband killings. Although questioned afterwards by the RUC, he never faced charges. 2 serving UDR soldiers and 1 former UDR soldier, Lance Corporal Thomas Crozier, Sergeant James McDowell, and John James Somerville were given life sentences for the killings. At the time the Miami Showband attack occurred, the UVF was not an illegal organization, the ban against them having been lifted in April 1974 by Merlin Rees, Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. The UVF would be proscribed by the British government again in October 1975. Aftermath. Within 12 hours of the attack, the UVF issued the following statement giving a fabricated account of the event. The UVF patrol led by Major Boyle was suspicious of 2 vehicles, a minibus and a car parked near the border. Major Boyle ordered his patrol to apprehend the occupants for questioning. As they were being questioned, Major Boyle and Lieutenant Somerville began to search the minibus. As they began to enter the vehicle, a bomb was detonated and both men were killed outright. At the precise moment of the explosion, the patrol came under intense automatic fire from the occupants of the other vehicle. The patrol sergeant immediately ordered fire to be returned. Using self-loading rifles and submachine guns, the patrol returned fire, killing 3 of their attackers and wounding another. The patrol later recovered 2 armorite rifles and a pistol. The UVF maintains regular border patrols due to the continued activity of the Provisional IRA. The Mid-Ulster Battalion has been assisting South Down South Armagh units since the IRA 4-kill booby trap which killed 4 British soldiers. 3 UVF members are being treated for gunshot wounds after last night but not in hospital. Quote, "It would appear that the UVF patrol surprised members of a terrorist organization transferring weapons, the Miami Showband minibus, and that an explosive device of some description was being carried by the Showband for an unlawful purpose. It is obvious, therefore, that the UVF patrol was justified in taking the action it did and that the killing of the 3 Showband members should be regarded as justifiable homicide. The officers and agents of the Ulster Central Intelligence Agency commend the UVF on their actions and tender the deepest sympathy to the relatives of the 2 officers who died while attempting to remove the bomb from the minibus." Boyle and Somerville were given UVF paramilitary funerals, complete with gun volleys. 8 women dressed in black walked in front of the cortege. The service was conducted by Free Presbyterian minister William McRae, a Democratic Unionist politician. The UVF journal Combat published sympathy letters from both the A Company of the 9th Battalion, Ulster Defence Regiment and the Protestant Action Force, a cover name used by the UVF, 2 weeks after the Miami Showband attack. A popular Portadown disc jockey, Norman Mujka, was shot dead by an IRA gunman as he was packing up his equipment after a show he had put on at the Camric Bar in Armagh. Although not a member of any loyalist paramilitary organisation, he had been a friend of Boyle and the 2 were often seen together. Boyle had occasionally helped Kerr run his mobile disco. The IRA claimed it killed Kerr because he was an associate of Robert Narak. According to Martin Dillon, Boyle and Wesley Somerville served as role models for Loyalist Volunteer Force leader Billy Wright, and it was the violent deaths which motivated him to join the UVF in 1975. Wright took over the Mid-Ulster UVF Brigade from Robin Jackson in the early 1990s before going on to form the LVF. The RTE programme Today Tonight aired a 1987 documentary in which it was claimed that former UVF associates of Boyle revealed to the programme that Narak detonated the bomb deliberately at Buskhill in order to eliminate Boyle, with whom he had carried out the Green assassination. Sunday Tribune journalist Emily O'Reilly noted that none of the 3 men convicted of the Miami Showband killings ever implicated Narak in the attack or accused him of causing Boyle's death. There is a mural and memorial plaque dedicated to Boyle in Portadown's Killycomain housing estate, where he had grown up. About 100 people, 16 loyalist bands and a UVF military guard of honour were present at the mural's unveiling on the 30th of July 2005, following a parade through the estate. The plaque describes Boyle as having been killed in action.